Welcome to the Modern Witches podcast. I'm Casey Zabala,
And I'm Karima Lynch.
and we have a very exciting episode of the podcast to share with you all. Last month, on November 2nd, we hosted our fifth Modern Witches Confluence in San Francisco. We hosted countless incredible witches and teachers. The workshops were incredible, spanning from raising power with Amanda Yates Garcia to collective conjuring with Dory Midnight and so many others. Maybe some of you were there. Karima was there. It was a beautiful day.
Mhm.
Um, Such a powerful weekend of witchcraft. Um, and our keynote speaker at the Witches Confluence this year was the one and only Jessica Lanyadoo, astrologer, psychic medium, and animal communicator. And we are super fortunate to have recorded their talk to share with all of you. This talk is so topical for so many reasons. Jessica spoke about energetic boundaries in times of chaos, which, hello. um, Welcome, chaos. We are moving through so much upheaval and transformation, which is demanding so much of us physically, materially, emotionally, and energetically. So it's definitely time to strengthen our self care and magical toolkits for the road ahead. Astrologically speaking, this is also a highly topical conversation to be having on energy and boundaries and our sensitivities, especially as magical folks, because the nodes of the moon are shifting from Aries and Libra into ultra sensitive Pisces and service and oriented Virgo.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very interesting because we're going to start 2025 having this shift. It's on January 11, 2025. So it's like, hey, happy new year. Like we're all collectively changing energy. And the past 18 months, that was the North Node was in Aries, the South Node was in Libra. And this axis very focused on the relationship between ourselves and other. This is the period we're still in it. It started on July 18, 2023. So we've been in this period where we've been asked to stand firmly in our beliefs and value, and also to learn how to speak this truth, even if it disturbs peace. And we have the Libra, that is the sign of balance, of justice. They thrive for fairness and harmony. But during this period where the South Node was in Libra and still is in Libra, we feel it's like a depleted energy. The mediator role that usually embody Libra, the sign of Libra, is being emptied out. And on the other hand, we have the North Node in Aries that represent the hunger. We are hungry for that energy. The head of the dragon is in the sign of Libra. So we want to go. We feel assertive about our opinion. It's fiery. It's a warrior approach. It's passionate. So it is leading to tension because this Aries energy is very all or nothing. So sometimes we can hurt people. And neither approach are right or wrong. Libra's diplomacy or Aries directness, but we need both energy. And I feel the challenge was and still is to balance Aries determination and Libra's need for peace. And this task was very much intensified where the node, I don't know if you remember, Casey, but when the node were squaring Pluto and Capricorn. So we
Mm.
have been the past 2 years having this balance between Pluto in Capricorn, Pluto in Aries. We're definitely now shift in Pluto in Aquarius. Sorry, Pluto in Capricorn and Pluto in Aquarius. But the past in 2024, we had from September 1st, 2024 to November 19, 2024, Pluto in Capricorn, and they were squaring the nodes. And that energy was right in the middle before the election when we debate, when we talk, we struggle, we're in control, transformation. We try to find harmony amidst this power struggle. We talk about our ideology, the power structure. Everything is pretty much put in front. And so it was a very intensified moment of the nodal axis on Aries and Libra that talk about peace, justice, fairness, but also truth and be true to your core and your ideology. So very interesting the past 18 months. It's good to review where in your chart that happened. You
Mm.
can have way more like personal insight on in which house this nodal axis Aries and Libra is. And now we're switching to North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo, which is very different. Like it's a total shift of energy where we have Pisces that is about healing and spiritual connection, embracing compassion. It's also very much about surrendering control and allowing our imagination to run wild. While the South Node, and I'm really specifically talk about South Node in Virgo, it's about control. It's about anxiety. It's about obsessive behavior that need to be purged, the need to let go of perfectionist that is better to move forward even if everything is not perfect. And at this heart of this axis is the theme of boundaries. Pisces represent limitless potential. It's dissolving a barrier, is making incredible energy for spiritual work around meditation, channeling, Reiki, and but also um, creative pursuit like arts and poetry and painting, and but also people that work in service to others like nurses or psychology. I really like it's broad, but all of those themes are you open your energy to different fields and seen energy. And so having the theme of boundaries during that North Node South Node experience in the next 18 months, it's going to be how you decide to open up to this energy and how you decide to close it. And learning and be disciplined of how to not go outside of the world on everyday life, being open because you can pick up on so much different energies and that is not yours is going to be a work doing that. That's going to be one of the work doing that transit. And those who have placement in Pisces, those who have the natal North Node in Pisces, they will likely resonate with that challenge because
Hmm.
feeling the energy of your surrounding, that can be pain, love, whatever, it can be extremely difficult and overwhelming and overflow you in every aspect of life. So what it's
Karima knows.
yeah. Yes, yes, I do the experience every day. It's equally true for physical or emotional boundaries. All of this can apply to also those areas of life that are way more tangible. And it's going to be a major collective lesson over the next 18 years while the North Node is in Pisces and will impact everyone. It will impact you in different area of life, again, depending of where Pisces fall into the natal chart. So for example, if it's in the fourth house and you have Pisces in your fourth house, theme around center around family, home family, cultural roots, upbringing, you know that the work's going to be there. Or it's going to be in your 10th house, which is focused maybe on your career, your public image, or how you project yourself into the world. The work's going to be there. And of course, you have the opposite, the South Node in Virgo, which is also the other part of the works, and the balance going to be happening there on that total axis. So looking where Pisces occupies your chart is really going to provide clarity and help you navigate this period, and also with learning with intention and awareness and be able to grow spiritually. And it very much encourages to balance that Pisces Virgo life, Pisces flow, and maintaining groundness and discernment into the Virgo part of our chart. And I'm excited about this shift, to be honest.
Mm.
I'm done with North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra. I think it was pretty, we could all feel it, that it was very intense, but also we didn't mention it, but also worldwide. If we talk about it worldwide, there was also a very strong disturbed peace
Mm.
energy. And yes, so
Yeah, agreed.
well, we need collective healing, emotional release, and boundary setting. And I really like
Hmm.
what Jessica's work did, what she did during the workshop, because she really also did the parallel between um, the energetic boundaries that we need all to do and work on, but also when we project, and that's the shadow part of Pisces, is when we project, when the reality and our imagination kind of melts,
Mm.
and having this technical tool to know, am I projecting or is it real? I think is one of the strongest tool that she provide for me in that workshop.
Mm. Yes, there were so many gems in this talk, and I didn't mention this on the onset, but this talk that Jessica did at the Witches Confluence was also a Q&A. So we had some incredible questions from our audience members
Mhm.
that I think really speak to our collective need for grounding in the work of energetic boundaries, and also just, that level of like discernment, the work of building up discernment and trust that
Mhm.
we're doing what's not only best for ourselves, but also what's best for our collective evolution. Um, so yeah, we're so excited to continue to unpack this nodal shift in our astro magical forecast episodes. Um, it's obviously a huge theme moving forward, so tune into those. And without further ado, let's jump right into this wisdom-filled talk from Jessica Lanyadoo on energetic boundaries in times of chaos. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica.
Dear listeners, thank you for making our 2024 year of the Modern Witches podcast our best year yet. Every time you share an episode, leave us a review, and share a comment, it empowers us to do this work. We are so grateful for your listenership. If you haven't yet, please consider following us, subscribing to the show, and contributing to our Patreon, which directly funds our podcast production. We're here for your magical astrological forecast episodes and inspiring interviews from modern practitioners of witchcraft. Thanks for tuning in. Tune into our winter solstice Capricorn episode on YouTube. This special video episode is sponsored by Luna Astrology Software. Join us for magical insights into the darkest day and a look at the elegant charts generated by Luna software. Blessed be. Hi, welcome back. How has your day been? Good? That's great to hear. Okay, well, we're all excited. I can feel it. And I am so excited to welcome Jessica Lanyadoo to the podium to speak about energetic boundaries in chaotic times, because here we are. It's a bit crazy out there. But I gotta say, it's been a real respite being with you all today. So thank you for showing up in such an amazing way. And without further ado, welcome Jessica.
Hi, it's so exciting to be here, and you guys are great, and I wish we could start with a group hug, but that would be wrong, so we won't do that. But thank you so much for having me, Witches Confluence, and thank you guys for being here. I am here to talk about energy boundaries, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to give you a brief outline. I'm just going to talk about energy boundaries, how to have them, the practice of them. Then I'm going to give you a little very woo energy work tip, like how to hide yourself if you're doing political action through energy work. And then we're going to do a damn Q&A for 30 minutes. So I'm very excited about that. You will be mic'd when it's time to ask a question. So, there'll be like hands, and you guys have done questions before. Okay. I should say that I am recovering from COVID, and it was like my guides were like, oh, you want to give a talk on boundaries? Let's create the very conditions where you're going to have a boundary crisis around your boundary talk. So unfortunately, I've come here late today, and I may cough my brains out, and I apologize in advance. I will apologize again if it happens. So, energy boundaries. Boundaries are my obsession. And the thing that I think is foundational to having boundaries is being present in your body. And the problem with being present in your body is so many things, especially if you're scared, if you're overwhelmed, if you're exhausted, if you're hopeless, if you're dealing with any kind of challenging emotion, and you get grounded in your body, you greet your body, then you feel it. And the problem that I see a lot of people encounter when they go to do energy work or practice alignment is you start to tap into your body and then you feel what you're feeling, which again is often rough. And then what most people do is they say to themselves, well, what am I doing wrong? I got grounded, I practiced alignment, and now I feel really bad. And so I think it's really important to start the conversation of having energy boundaries with an acknowledgement that having energy boundaries doesn't mean feeling good all the time. And thank you for nodding, because you know what I'm talking about. It means being able to tap in and stay present with, be aligned with what you feel when you feel it. And that's hard. And right now, I mean, I'm assuming we all are just like freaking out, at least a little bit. It's a really frightening time, and I don't want to blow your mind, but the astrology for the next little while is just damn bananas. It is not getting better. So, sorry. Invite me to a party. I'm so much fun. Sorry guys. But yeah, so it is rough. And so if we are to participate as people of conscience, as spiritual people, as people who care and want to make a difference and be a part of the positive potential in the world, unfortunately, what we must do is be able to experience our emotions. And I think a lot of us on a spiritual path, we want to bypass that step because feeling emotions is hard and it's slow. And your mind and your spirit can say, I'm going to align with what's possible. And all these things are possible. And then you tap into your heart, and your heart's like, ugh, remember all the times it didn't happen. Fear, insecurity, all that kind of stuff. And because it's so hard to stay high vibe when you're in your emotions, a lot of us abandon ourselves. And the bottom line is, in order to maintain energy boundaries, we must be able to tolerate our emotions, which, nobody can do all the time. And, for those of us who are really good at it, we're always really bad at it too. You know what I mean? It's a practice. And so I want to just take a moment to invite you to set the intention that the next time you feel cruddy, to not assume that something's wrong with you, but instead to just acknowledge that's how you're feeling. I mean, I know it sounds really simple, but how often do you do that, right? Being able to simply stay present with, tolerate, be kind to yourself is transformative. And I'm assuming, I feel like I could do a show of hands. Anyone here a highly sensitive person, an empath? Anyone? Kind of thought so. Okay, thank you for laughing at that, because I thought it was funny too. Okay, so here's the thing that we all struggle with. the highly sensitive, the empaths, is the difference between empathy and merging, right? Okay, yeah. Okay, so empathy, both the energetic condition of being an empath or a highly sensitive person, but also the practice of empathy, like the psychological and emotional practice, is really about being able to feel, to tap in and to feel. It's an expanded condition of feeling, which is both emotional and sensation-based, right? Merging, my friends, is not the same fucking thing. And merging is what most of us do a lot of the time. Merging disconnects you from your center. It pulls you out of yourself and taxes your energy. And what most of us have experienced is complete exhaustion, collapse, disintegration, because we are so overwhelmed by what's happening with our partner, our mom, the fucking world. And I'm so sorry in advance if I'm not supposed to cuss. I didn't ask, but I'm going to. Okay, I'm cussing. I'm doing it more. Okay. Sorry, but it's hard to talk about the world and not say the fucking world, right? And especially the last several years, and in the last year watching genocides on our phones, day in and day out, I don't think it's likely that anyone in this room has not experienced collapse, has not experienced just, how do you not fall apart? And some of that is a very healthy human response to what we're experiencing, what we're seeing. And some of that is a result of merging, losing your center, losing alignment. When we lose alignment, we cannot have impact. And my hope for you and for us is that we each find our way of being impactful in our lives and in the world. And that's going to look different at different times. Right now, there's not a lot going on in the world, obviously, but astrologically, there's a lot going on. Mars is going to be exactly opposite to Pluto tomorrow for the first time. And that is going to reoccur 2 more times again. So basically, for the next 6 months plus, we're going through this extremely challenging transit of Mars opposite Pluto. And Pluto is related to your survival mechanisms. It's fight, flight, fawn. It's, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Oh my God, we're all gonna die. It's terror. And it's not just your survival mechanisms that come from your lived experience, they're inherited trauma. So I know probably no one here has any inherited trauma, but a lot of people do. Sorry again. Sorry, we all do. So what I wanna say is that Pluto, when it is activated in you, it triggers trauma, your relationship to trauma, your substance abuse stuff, your self-harm, your willingness to run off a cliff because you're trying to get away from a feeling. You know, we all have that. Mars is the body. It's your meat suit. It's your muscles and your red blood cells. Mars governs how you drive your car. It's like how you move through the world. So literally how you drive your car and metaphorically how you drive your car. It's how you move through the world. And Mars is also related to the ego and defenses and assertion and ambition, passion. And going through a Mars opposition to Pluto, which is a transit that will usually last like a couple of days, you know what I mean? Not weeks, not months, a couple days. It triggers survival issues. And we've been experiencing this for the last few weeks. It's exact tomorrow, November 3rd, but we've been experiencing it already since mid-October. So you already have a sense of this energy in your experience. And it's activating. What it does is it triggers us as individuals to experience what we're experiencing, even though it feels really activating, scary, like you're falling off a cliff. And because it's involving Mars, it's requiring each of us to tap into our meat suits, our bodies. Our bodies are the one thing that from the very start of this mortal coil to the very end are with you. And our bodies hold our emotions. we're so identified with our thoughts. It's our emotions that really help. They're the bridge. They help with energy work. They help with spiritual alignment. They help with our health in general. And what we are on call to deal with here as individuals is how to get present in the body and experience the body, not abandon the body, when we are activated and scared, when we are defensive and angry. And some of us vibe well with anger, love it, a friend to anger. And some of us just cannot vibe with anger and go into demoralization, exhaustion, helplessness. Doesn't matter heads or tails how you experience this energy. This is how you experience this energy. Doesn't matter where you are, don't judge it. There's no value in judging it. And we're all gonna judge ourselves. That's what Mars opposite Pluto does. The reason why so many people in New Age and witchy and other spiritual communities go into like love and light bullshit, or thank you, yes, for agreeing, or obviously, right? Or into like really actually kind of aggressive, defensive, this is the truth and this is the only truth kind of stuff, is because of a lack of emotional embodiment and presence. And so I want to invite you to develop a practice for the next 6 months or so of returning to your body and acknowledging how you feel and giving yourself permission to feel what you feel. And to see if you can actually just be a nice person to yourself. Like pretend you're friends with yourself and that you're, right? Like we have to pretend, right, sometimes? So you have to pretend that you're friends with yourself and treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. I was talking to a friend about this talk, about boundaries, and she was just like, boundaries. I hate boundaries, the whole concept of boundaries. So we had this conversation, and it kind of like crystallized in this conversation for me, where boundaries are only, bless you, are only walls, right? They're only walls or fences sometimes they're walls or fences because they need to be walls or fences, right? That's real. But a lot of the time, they're walls or fences simply because we are not aligned. So we hold the boundary too aggressively, too defensively, because we're not actually embodying the boundary. So instead of thinking of a boundary as a wall, I want to give you this very simple visual. Boundaries are like city parks. I don't know, like Golden Gate Park. You know when you're in the park, and you know when you're in the city. There doesn't have to be a wall. There's a couple walls around certain flowers, you know what I mean? We got to be careful with certain things. But for the most part, I know when I'm standing in the park versus when I'm standing in the city. Because it's the embodiment is the demarcation. When you practice embodiment, which requires giving yourself permission to feel what you feel, even if you wish you didn't or you think you shouldn't. When you practice embodiment, you don't have to constantly like, this is my boundary. You get to just practice being. So if the boundary is, I don't want to talk about this with you, then you don't have to explain it more than twice. Twice is nice, thrice is fine. After that, you just change the subject, you leave the room. You just embody the boundary. There's no need to defend something that you've given yourself permission to be in alignment with. And of course, there are situations where that just doesn't work, but it's a practice worth embodying. And during this Mars opposition to Pluto, it's not gonna work. Promise you that it's not gonna work all the time. It's not gonna work in your self-talk, in your relationship to yourself. It's not gonna work with other people at times. It's not gonna work with this group against that group. And it's still a practice worth embracing because we don't have to have perfection in order to be in alignment. Now, okay. This other thing I want to say about boundaries is that a lot of us struggle with boundaries because we're looking outside of ourselves for validation. We're like, okay, so I gave you the boundary. Is it okay? Are we still friends? Do you think I'm being mean? Okay, you got it. And this is a really good example of abandoning yourself, separating yourself from alignment, and instead looking outside of yourself for, am I right or am I wrong? Am I good or am I bad? You could be wrong. You can be, you get to be wrong, actually. You get to articulate your boundary and then realize that you did it weird or wrong or rude. And then you can just be like a normal person and be like, oh shit, I did that, sorry. It's okay. You get to be wrong, and each and every time you're right doesn't make you like a special person, and each and every time you're wrong doesn't make you a terrible person. You're just living your life. And if you can practice giving yourself the space to just be a person who is fallible, then it'll be easier to let other people be people who are fallible, who fuck up, who do it wrong. We have a tendency to be carceral, to punish other people, to punish ourselves. Fucking Mars opposite Pluto is going to that. I hope that made sense. Nonverbal, but okay, thank you. And so we want to watch that in ourselves, watch that in our relationships, watch that in our communities. Acceptance is hard. If you can accept, I made a mistake. If you can actually just accept it, then you don't have to defend it. You don't have to punish yourself. You can just be like, oh, I made a mistake. What do I do about that? And often it's just acknowledge the mistake, be humble, learn from it, move the fuck on. Okay. Now, I promised you something that I want to talk about. It's a real shift, okay? But I really wanted to share this with you guys. Something that a friend of mine actually taught me years back. Does anyone here do like spiritual activism, like energy work stuff? Show of hands, a little bit. Okay, all right, a little bit. This is for you. If you are doing any kind of energy work where you are working with powers that be, we're talking about, people or organizations that are doing real evil and harm. And my favorite way to do that is by lighting them up so the world can see them, instead of by trying to impact, direct things. I don't want to assume that I know what the hell is happening in the world. So being able to simply light up people who are doing evil is actually a really great tool. But if you were going to do that kind of work, you want to be careful, because you have to assume that people are doing energy work on all sides of all kinds of big world events. And I was doing this kind of energy work with a friend, and we could feel, as we started to move into their sphere, we could feel pushing up against people's energies, people who were doing energy work on the other side. And we were like, oh shit, this is actually really dangerous. And so what my friend kind of decided, and what we now do, is you can proxy yourself into the sun. Proxy yourself into the sun. So in other words, throw your energy up into the sun, because no matter how bright your light is, the sun is brighter. No shade. Get it? So thank you. Some people don't like puns, whatever. So you can proxy yourself into the sun, and that way you are safe without diminishing your light or making yourself smaller. You don't need to make yourself smaller. And this works if you're like moving through, like you are feeling yourself, you're taking public transit, you're going to a thing, but you don't want to be seen by all the people in the world. Proxy, you know what I mean? There's lots of ways of doing energy work to shield yourself without dimming your light. And it's worth exploring those. And I wanted to make sure to give you that, because my hope is that as you discover your power and you return to your body, and you practice alignment with yourself, that you'll find your ways. And for a lot of us who are empaths, I am of the mind that being an empath doesn't mean turn away from the world, turn away from the news. It means you are sensitive to things that you're meant to be a part of. Why else would you be sensitive to them? So finding ways to participate that are at the level that you're at, accept where you're starting from, and that you can make an impact with, it's just so powerful. So I think I'm around, I don't know time, I think I'm around my time. I got a couple more minutes, but I feel like I could answer questions, unless, does anyone have questions? Okay, great, there's questions. Okay, I'd love to start taking your questions, and also, I'm gonna use a fan because I'm really hot, and that's what's happening, okay? Thanks. I just didn't want to start doing it, and you were like, what is she doing? Thank you very much. It's on brand, but also it's, thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes. Also, perimenopause. So, no clapping for perimenopause? Come on. Come on. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Hi,
Hi.
Jessica.
Hi.
I'm curious about your practices around boundaries when doing mediumship work with people who have died, and how do you maintain energetic integrity while you're speaking with them and afterward? Like, what's your thing with that? 'Cause
That's a great question.
I
And
just
are you a
can't-
medium as well?
Yes.
So, okay. As a medium, my experience is that it is the number one most important time to stay in alignment. Because the second you lose yourself, I don't know how it works for you, but dead people can jump into my body. Do you have that experience? No? No? Oh, yes. Okay, so that's awful. It's not good for your physical body. Because when the dead jump into your body, everything slows down. So it's like actually hard on your organs. It's not a great way for your physical body to function. So developing a process with your guidance system to ask for information, but to come to you, but not through your body, is chef's kiss. And what will happen is that you'll get the information a little slower. That's why we have bad boundaries, because it's easier in the short term, right? Yeah. So when the dead come through, I really practice staying as much in alignment with myself as I can, so I can clock where they're at and what they're saying. Also, practice saying no to dead people. It's just like saying no to living people. They don't like it all the time. The respectful ones will respect, the disrespectful ones will not. And it kind of is what it is. It is a practice. And in my experience as a medium, I haven't found the way to not get invaded at times. Get invaded at times, yeah. I think that's as a medium, you have a level of sensitivity that most people don't have. You're like walking around gluten-free, lactose-free, can't eat anything, you know what I mean? It's that kind of a thing. And that means that sometimes all your friends are gonna be like, oh my God, let's go to this restaurant, it's the best restaurant, and you'll step foot inside and your body will say no, and you gotta get out. It's about trusting your system. Your navigation system is there for you. And then sometimes you're gonna be like, oh, my friends are here. I wanna go to the damn restaurant. And I'm going to go to the bathroom first and shield up. You know? It's a practice, and it's really hard to accept that you need to be doing 7 million extra things than other people are doing, because you wanna just be like normal and walk around life. That doesn't work. So just, again, it's about practicing that. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, should you shield up like every time you know you're gonna have a conversation?
I shield up 700 times a day. Thank you. I shield up in different levels, multiple times a day, every day, even when I don't leave the house. Yeah, because being a medium is kind of like having a big neon sign over your head for the dead. They can see you, moths to flame. And if you want to turn that light down, it's really hard. I haven't figured out how to do it for the most part. But you can have boundaries and say, you are not allowed past a certain point. During 2020, and when so many people were dying, I was having a very, challenging experience as a medium. I don't know about you, but there was sometimes hundreds of dead people in my home and in my body at a time. And it was really exceptionally taxing. And eventually I figured out, I went to my backyard, I painted and energized a portal, and I put cookies out. And I put them in a plastic bag because I'm not feeding raccoons. Can you hear this fan in the mic? You're okay? Okay, great. Okay. So I'm not feeding raccoons. I put it in a plastic bag, but I was just like, come here. come here, dead, and chill. And then I went out every day and I helped people cross. So you can do something like that. And working with portals, I'm a huge fan of it. You can create portals, but you want to be careful because they can attract energy. I once told somebody very offhand, like a client very offhand, how to create a portal and do his energy clearing exercise, and she did it, but she did it weird. She didn't do it like I told her, and she got a rat infestation. So ever since then, I'm like, I tell this story like that you can get a rat infestation. Like, don't just mess around with a portal, be intentional. Because I'm not a fan of rats or raccoons. So that's the answer. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Hello.
Hi. First of all, this was like Ghost of a Podcast times 100, so thank you for that. And also, because, Bay Area vibes, thank you for all the good, bad, and shitty boundaries that you've had over the last few decades to get you where you are today.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And so this is kind of like a big overarching question, but it's got little small subsets. And the first part for me, especially today and yesterday, is the part about dealing with shitty ancestors. Like, some of us have craptastic people in the vibes from before, and they're not always the most respectful. And I feel like for me personally, I've been able to be like, you sucked, so stay away. But sometimes they just don't listen, and so I'm working with that. And then the other part is like, because lineages, sometimes the living also can be shitty. And so shitty ancestors, shitty people, and then I didn't know this when I was younger, but I know it now, that shitty ancestors and shitty people conditioned me to end up working in shitty systems. And I know more about that now, but so the subsets, part A, B, and C, are dealing with shitty ancestors, shitty families, and shitty systems, and then the overarching is how to move through those trajectories a little better.
So I personally don't do a lot of ancestor work. Bless you. You got good ancestors? Good on you. I don't fuck with my ancestors. I wouldn't fuck with them alive. I don't fuck with them dead. Like, I just, I don't know how we all are traumatized, and yet we all have ancestors we want to hang out with. Like, that blows my Capricorn mind. It just doesn't make the math doesn't math. So I don't do ancestor work. I talk to dead people, but not my relatives very often. Like, at all. And I think that is healthy and normal. So I think it's great to have a hard boundary, no on ancestors. And if they are disrespectful, it's a practice of continuing to just, like really block them out. But here's the thing. When you have challenging, invasive, living ancestors, as well as ancestors in spirit, that means you have an ancestral pattern of people who invade or cross boundaries. Is this making a weird sound, or is it just in my ear? It is. Okay, can I do it? I did it. Oh my God, I'm so proud of myself. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Basic human skills. Okay, I have, when you have that pattern, what it means is that you have an ancestral pattern, which means it's not just your lived experience, it's like in your damn genes, right? Which means you spend your lifetime working on it. Doesn't mean you can't work on it, doesn't mean you can't heal, but it does mean it's harder because some of what you're dealing with is in your genes. It's in your unconscious. So this is where practicing the emotional part is going to be exceptionally helpful for you, and also exceptionally slow. It's such slow work. But when it comes to family, if you can, just practicing your limits with them instead of explaining it to them is honestly the most effective move I have found. So I hope that helps. And yeah, if you can, avoid your ancestors. Yes, big fan of that. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I love you. My question for you is, how do you shield and tether to the sun, as you said. But what are the kind of practices that you do to attain the shielding and the tethering? Thank you.
Excellent question. Okay, so there's a lot to say about that. On my Patreon, I've been talking about this for years, and I've got content there if that's something you're interested in, because there's only so much I can say in the next 2 seconds. So here's the thing that I don't know how to explain. How to proxy in the sun. How do you explain that? I don't know. It's like it's something I know how to do, and I don't know how to explain it, and I feel like a dick every time people ask me how to do a thing that I don't know how to explain how to do. It's not like astrology where I can be like, well, you just study it and you do it. But what I would recommend doing is practice. Have you ever worked with an energy bubble, like an energy shield or an energy bubble? Excellent. That was a yes for those who can't see. So practice doing that, and practice if you can. If you've got a friend who you can do this with, okay. So you're going to do it with a friend. So have your back to the friend, and have them walk from far away, closer and closer. Notice in your energy field when you can feel them. This is a way of knowing where you begin and end. Okay, this is a way of being able to practice feeling your energy body, which is different than your meat suit, right? Your body is inside of your soul, right? And your energy body is also inside of your soul. So what you want to practice doing is cultivating awareness and relationship to the energy body, because then you can proxy it, then you can shift, you can move it. It's kind of like you could be at the dentist and stressed out and just decide you're going to remember what it was like to be on the beach on your last vacation. And just you're not there, you're not there, but you move your energy there, right? Most of us do that, and that's a form of energy work. It's, works as well as it does. But it's in that family. It's in that family. It's something you can work with. Does that kind of speak to it? Okay, good. I don't know. I don't know. I'm bad at this.
Do you have any advice for folks who have trauma around others violating their boundaries, who kind of go into that what if anxiety scenario about setting the boundaries? What kind of magical working they can do to kind of help them feel more confident in setting boundaries?
That's a great question, and one I get kind of often. And part of the answer is radically different if the people, when you're talking about the trauma, there's so many levels on which trauma exists, and there's so many experiences you may or may not have had. And so my answer would meaningfully shift based on that kind of data, which is more than we can do right now. But I am of the mind that the best answer to that is to give people permission to be dicks, to give people permission to not like you, to give people permission to be a thorn in your side, whether or not they're against you, right? Because sometimes somebody's just not giving you what you want and not being what you want them to be, but they're not wrong or harming you per se. It's about practicing returning to the moment where I don't like this person right now. I just don't like them right now. And letting that be okay. It's uncomfortable and it sucks, and also it's okay. You may be someone's bad guy sometimes, and that's okay. It's not great, obviously, but it is okay. And I think this is where I come back to this thing that I kind of opened with, which is so many of us, we move into this idea of I'm going to do energy work, I'm going to do spiritual work, and I'm going to get grounded, and then I'm going to feel good. But the more grounded and aligned you get, you just feel what you feel. And if you have trauma, you're going to feel your trauma. And this is why most people don't get past the BS love and light part, right? Because if you feel your trauma, you will feel trauma. You feel all kinds of awful feelings. And practicing different responses to your reactions I don't think there's magic for it. I mean, I'm sure people in here will be like, yes, there is. There's magic for it. But even if you practice that magic, nothing is going to absolve you of the step of tolerating your emotions. So that's honestly where I point you to. And this is where, this is what I would say. Yeah. I feel like there's people in the back who could maybe get there's lots of people in the back, I feel.
Hello.
Hi.
I feel so lucky I got picked. Hi. So Jessica, something I have always found really fascinating about you is that you are an animal communicator.
I am.
And I wanted to ask you about this because it pops into my mind like, wow, what is that? Like, how do you find your way to that? And I have these two beautiful cats at home that are my everything. And I'm trying to kind of sort of nurture them into becoming familiars for me, which I know they will on their own. But I am very curious how you would maybe describe tapping into that, if you feel like that is something that can be learned, and how you would describe maybe sort of touching into that for somebody who's interested.
Yes, great question. Okay. I am of the mind that not everyone can learn everything. People tell me I could be a singer. No, I can't. People tell me I could be an athlete. No, I can't. And I've seen my chart. Technically, yeah, sure I could, but no, I can't. And I think it's okay to not be able to do a thing. I want to just start there. Also, I think anyone can do it. It depends on how in your head you are. You know what I mean? Some people are just relentlessly in their heads. And if you're relentlessly in your head, you're going to have a hard time doing it, because communicating with animals is a practice of being receptive. Animals are constantly communicating with you. You are constantly communicating with your animals. Anyone who has thought about getting off the couch and grabbing a leash to take their dog for a walk can attest that you have just told your dog you're going to go for a walk. Cats are so much more complex. And the way that I started practicing, because my cat showed me that he was communicating with me, and I was like, oh my God. And so I started practicing by being like, okay, you're right there. Jump over here, come over here, and then sit in my lap. We just show him the picture. It's pictures, it's just pictures. And he would do it, and I would be like, oh my God. So I kept on practicing. But the thing that most people struggle with, and I should say was already working as an astrologer and a medium and a psychic, so it was kind of, throw it in this bucket. The thing that most people have a hard time with animal communication is the head. You want to practice being in a state of reception. It's simply receiving. And so I'm not trying to psychically peep at you, I just could see it, so I'm gonna say it. You just got in your head about being receptive. I could feel that, sorry. And so that is just, when you have a strong feeling, you have a tendency to be like, oh yeah, I have this feeling, let me go back to the narration of the feeling. And that gets in the way of hearing what your animals are saying to you. It doesn't get in the way of telling them things. So our animals can communicate with us. Guess who knows, in a cat or a dog in a human relationship, guess who knows their name and who doesn't? We don't know what they call us. We're so arrogant. God damn, humans are so arrogant. We don't know their designation for us. They know the one we use for them, right? We are constantly in communication with our animals. Don't doubt that for a second. It's about practicing being in a state of receptivity, and the easiest way of doing that is when you're emotionally feeling safe and easy and open. So maybe you've been at home and you sewed a shirt and you feel cute and you're doing your thing, and then it's easier to be like, oh, I just feel like my cat told me to X. And then you respond, and then you start to build that rapport. That's how it works for me. There are actual teachers of animal communication, and they are worth finding, and I am not one. Because I'm I don't know, just do it. So useless, sorry. Yes. Somewhere over here, yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, awesome. I love that you touched upon the love and light bullshit. I want to hear more about that. Definitely started my energetic journey with that as a premise, and then realized that darkness and the mess and chaos of life is essential and you should be feeling it.
Yes.
But there are some moments of like celebration or like recognition or trying to build connection. And then there's other people that want to bring that energy down, almost kind of like scratching a scab. So how do we allow darkness and like kind of like the bad parts to exist, but also having celebrations or connections and like balancing those energies and creating boundaries?
Good question. So if you fuck with the tarot, you may know that the magus, the magician, is a Mercury card. It's about adaptability. And this is the truth. My trauma might be, if you get too positive, then I feel like I'm going to have to take care of you, so I want to bring you down as a way to make myself feel safer. And my trauma might be, you are so comfortable with the darkness that I'm going to drown when I'm around you. So I have to constantly be like, positive, positive, positive. It's all about my trauma. None of it's about you. And so this is where we come back to alignment and we add in adaptability, because when you're in alignment, you can be like, okay, I know this feels off. I know this feels wrong, but I don't really know why. And then when you're separate from me and all my trauma and how I'm bringing it to you, and by the way, each and every one of us do this, our version of it sometimes, right? When you can identify, oh, this is actually Jessica's shit, this is Jessica's shit, then you can obsess on it. You can be like, how can I fix it? You can do all kinds of things that you shouldn't do. Or you can just accept it and be like, okay, how do I need to adapt when I'm in Jessica's presence? Because it affects me in this way. It rubs up against my trauma in this way, or my issues. It doesn't have to be trauma. But I think that the truth is that it is hard to know. It's hard to know. I'm recovering from COVID, and I was like, am I overindulging my exhaustion? Or am I doing a really good job of recovering? I can't tell from minute to minute, you know what I mean? And that's part of it, is like asking the question, being willing to ask the question. Like, am I actually triggered because I want to be really deep right now and this person's making me feel silly? Like, maybe it's you, maybe it's not me, you know what I mean? Like, asking the question and being adaptable, that's where magic is. And so that's the practice. Yeah, my pleasure.
Hi. So I'm also Jessica.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi. I hear you on the Be Aligned. I hear you on the proxy the sun. Don't know exactly how to do that either, but I'll practice
Don't worry
it.
about it. Mm-hmm.
What happens when you lose your center and you take on other people's energy and then you find out randomly that it's been affecting you? I work in a lot of spaces where there's conflict, struggle. I don't know if I'd call it trauma because it's at work, but maybe it's trauma. And then I come home and I'm like, I'm carrying all these things and I don't know how to let go of them. And what's a practice that you can do? Because I know I could have somebody help with a chakra energy aura clearing, but what can I do that
Like a daily
after the
practice.
fact where I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. So do you work in a space where you're in an office, or what's your physical space where you're working? You moving around a lot?
Different offices, different organizations, let's say toxic, dysfunctional teams.
Okay. So it's happening not in a physical location, one physical location. It's happening on Zoom and in different rooms. Okay, great. So there's a lot of things you can do. And before I give you any kind of fix, let me just say, we have all experienced what you're talking about. Nobody in here hasn't. We will all again. I do all the time. AKA, if you want to be around other humans, this is going to happen. And if you isolate yourself with just a bunch of sheep or pigs, who I love pigs, it'll also happen because it's part of the human condition. Okay, so that said, there are so many exercises. Let me think of a good one for you. Okay, here we go. What you can do is, at the end of the day, do you drive home? Okay, so you're in a car alone. You get in your car. You do not turn on your car. You take a moment to call your energy back to you, okay? And my cheat way of doing it, I just say my full name, all the names out loud. So you include your mother's maiden, you include like deep nicknames, right? You use all your names, you say it 3 times out loud or in your head, and you just call all your energy back to your center. And your center is your solar plexus, right? You ever do Pilates, you know where it is. So you call it back to your center, and then this is how I like to do it, and you can do it any way you want. And I don't know if I've said this in public before, but I have a meditation book coming out in January, the beginning of January. Thank you very much. Thank you. But this is an energy work exercise, and I created a meditation that is basically this: look for Libra. So what you do is you then visualize. I like a net in the sky. You can use whatever you want. Visualize all the energy that you're holding on to that is not yours, and you just return it to the net. And then you can let that net just like explode in the stars. You can also give the energy back to other people. The problem with that is if it's not clean, if you're like, that fucking bitch, I'm gonna give her energy back, then you're sending out a boomerang. Do you know what I mean? So that's not a good idea. Instead, you have your guides help you to release the energy into a net and have that net, your guides take care of it, let the universe take care of it, you release it. Now, if you do this in your head, it's not gonna give you a whole lot of relief. If you first get centered and grounded, it will give you release. But if you first get centered and grounded, you are gonna feel how tired you are. You're gonna feel how angry you are. You're gonna feel how sad you are. You're gonna feel like shit. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing the exercise, right? So where most people go wrong is as soon as you get present, you're like, oh, this is terrible, what's wrong? And then you go into your head to escape. Or you just start the car anyways. So it's about being able to tolerate the emotions long enough to develop the practice. So that's a practice. But that's what I would say. Yeah, good. Thank you, Jessica. Yes. I feel like we got 10 more minutes. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Hello.
Hi. Thank you. So at the end of your talking portion, you said you're sensitive to things that you're supposed to be sensitive to. And I wondered if you would give a little bit of like discernment advice or ways that Libra alert, just ways that you use discernment in a boundaries practice.
And do you mean this about like your interpersonal stuff, your personal life, or are you talking about the world?
I mean, I think in terms of like being what you said, being sensitive to things that you're supposed to be a part of, like how do we know necessarily where it's a sensitivity that like is an important thing to be then aware of and track, or whether it's a sensitivity because actually like it's not good for you in some way?
Okay, this is such an important question now that I'm understanding it better. And it's especially important because of the Mars-Pluto opposition that we're already in. Rumination is not spiritual. Feels spiritual. It does. It feels really deep. But it's psychological and emotional. And we may have deep ancestral patterns around it. But when we're in a state of rumination, we're in a state of attachment outside of ourselves, which requires abandonment of self. No big deal. And when you're in a state of abandonment of self and you're ruminating on someone else or something else, the only work to do is return to center and drop it. So, I've never had a dog, but I've seen enough people with a dog be like, drop it, about things that they pick up. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, how many times have I heard that? We are all that dog. And we must be that person being just like, drop it. Thank you very much. Thank you. So if you're ruminating, you've got to drop it. But this is complicated because my sensitivity to world events, I will ruminate on. So how do you track the space between heartfelt connection and maladjusted coping mechanisms? There's not a magic way. And I think that there's a lot of spiritual paths that will teach you lots of different tools, and if they work for you, that is great. But it comes back to meaning. So this is something that, You've probably picked up on my podcast that I talk about a lot. It's values. And you're actually a Libra? Yes. So you're Venus ruled anyways. And the thing that's so hard about Venus, Libra, Taurus, is it is just as much about accommodation as it is about authenticity. So if you are trying to accommodate someone else, if you are trying to keep everything nice, then you have moved away from what's authentic, unfortunately. It is possible to align with what is authentic and then try to be kind and diplomatic, but that's a different practice. And so when it comes to social issues, I am very much of the mind, social and political issues. If you are sensitive to the world around you, you are meant to be an active part of creating change, period. You're not meant to look away. You're not, yeah, okay, thank you. I got thrown off. I was like, is it raining? I don't know what's happening. It snaps. I can't snap at all, so it's really embarrassing when people snap around me. Anyways, so, I'm sorry. I don't leave the house a lot. So, all to say, I think that's a rule. And that doesn't mean do everything all at once all the time. We have to pace ourselves so that we can have impact, as I said earlier, right? When it comes to our personal lives, radically different answer. Because I firmly believe that I do not have the right to try to heal you, or to heal my dead ancestor, or to heal my mom who's living. None of it. I'm responsible for me, and you're responsible for you. And so if the thing that you are fixated on is like, as an empath or a sensitive person, I just know that my friend, who's not even that close of a friend, is going through a thing. If you want to allow that to inspire you to reach out and cultivate intimacy and closeness, to let them come to you, gorgeous. Otherwise, you're a peeping Tom. And I think that a lot of us who are empaths are peeping Toms without realizing it or without meaning to be. And it's creepy. We shouldn't do it. And people start becoming friends with me and they're like, no, it's okay, peep on me. It's okay, be psychic with me. No, you don't mean that. Trust me, you don't mean that. You mean that in this mood. Watch me say something that crosses a different mood, and then you avoid me, right? I'm sure a lot of us have had this experience. If you have extra sensory abilities, it comes at a cost. And so having healthy boundaries around, do you want a non-paying therapeutic relationship with your friends and dates, right? Or do you want to acknowledge, I can feel that something is up with this person and I have a narrative about what it is, and it's not my business, but I can reach out and be like, hey, I've been thinking about you. That's my practice with people. I send them a heart emoji. I say, hi, what's up? I do not say, I just tapped in and I can feel this shit going on. It's not my fucking business. It's not my business. And to assume, even though I'm like a professional psychic, that I'm not projecting is hubris. Yeah, hubris is cute for some people, but I'm not a fan. I'm such a Capricorn. So I would just say, hopefully, does that answer it actually? Okay, good, then I answered your question. I'm very proud of myself, thank you. Thank you very much, thank you very much. Do we have time? I think we have time for one more. I can't tell, my phone won't listen to me. I don't know. Yeah, maybe, if I'm quick.
I think it's quick.
Okay, great.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much. You keep talking about emotions and feeling your emotions, and I know that's something that you talk about a lot. And I have a lot of trouble sometimes separating my thoughts from my emotions. I feel like my mind is like a chocolate vanilla swirl milkshake, and it's the same thing, and I don't know. I doubt on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's very human and very normal, and I can identify with it. I'm sure most people in here can. So I'm not going to psychic you because we don't have time, but I want to. But I will say this. Your thoughts go like that. Do you know what I'm saying? I am psychicing you, I lied. But your feelings are kind of slow and subterranean. The real question you have is, how do I understand what I'm feeling quickly? Yeah. Yeah, that's actually what you really want to know. And the answer is you don't. Understanding comes after experiencing. We are in such a rush to turn our feelings and our instincts into stories and outcomes that we miss life. And that practice of turning your feelings into outcomes or stories is one of self-abandonment. So here's the thing, and again, apologize, I am psychicking you. If you practice actually feeling your feelings, you would be sad and tired a lot. Does that make sense? Yeah. And you don't want to be sad and tired. Who wants to be sad and tired? And so you're like, okay, well, let me figure out what to do about my feelings. Now, if you did that to your bestie, would they be your bestie? It's not really kind. Finding ways of carving out space where you can be sad and tired and not do anything about it and not even try to figure it out, but to just actually have the agenda of sad and tired, giving every time your head tries to come in and be like, okay, but what's it mean? Or what should I do? Or grab my phone. That starts to build trust between your sweet little heart, which is a young part, because if you've developed this habit, just like the rest of us, you developed it at a certain age where you learned it wasn't okay to have the feelings you're having. So that sweet young part needs adult you to practice just being there. Just being there. And after time, and it might be months, it could be years, but after time of being a reliable resource, an ally, things will shift. They might shift all at once, they might shift slowly over time, but they will shift. And then you will experience more of your emotions, not just the sad and tired that greets you. It's the first layer. And again, as I was saying like at the start of my talk, that we are in such disconnect from our emotions. We don't want to feel bad. But most of us, when we tap in, we feel bad. Because the whole reason why we tap out is because we feel bad. And there's so much to feel bad about. Real talks. But whatever the age was for you, 2, 4, I can't tell, you need to treat that part like it's kind of toddler times. So have you ever hung out with toddlers? So you know what they need. Just presents, just play, make sure they don't put weird shit in their mouth or their butts or whatever. Like, that's really like all they need, right? And if you can practice doing that for yourself, do whatever you want with your parts. But if you can practice just being a kind presence to yourself, making sure you don't do something to hurt yourself unintentionally, everything shifts. And it doesn't shift all at once. And it doesn't always seem like it's shifting. And you have to stay present with the part. Like, do you remember what it was like to learn how to tell time? Or tie your shoe? It felt like you were never gonna get it. Literally impossible. And now it's a thing where you're like, well, obviously I can do those things. And this will be the same. It is a practice that is impossible to imagine being good at until you are. And the truth is that even as we're all talking about this and we're thinking about ourselves being sad or in a bad state, a lot of us have a hard time tolerating our loved ones when they're sad and in a bad state. And we rush to make them feel better. And we rush to come up with solutions or to distract them. And that's really because of our own inability to tolerate sadness or exhaustion or all the things. And so the next time somebody comes to you who you love, who's like, I feel bad, practice being open and listening, asking questions, even asking, do you need anything? A lot of times what our friends need from us is what we need from us, which is just practicing being present. And I'll say, I give a lot of readings, a lot on the podcast. The experience that people have when they're getting a reading, sometimes it's just it's magical in whatever way, but a big one is just being witnessed. It's just being witnessed. And if I can give somebody in a 60-minute conversation the gift of being witnessed, imagine what you would feel if you practice witnessing you. It's really, 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 really hard, and it's really, really, really simple. I should repeat that. It's hard and simple. If you're making it complicated, You've lost the thread. It's simple. And it's hard. And it's worth it. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I think that was a good one to end on. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.